It was a crisp October morning in suburban Oregon, the kind of morning where the leaves painted the streets gold and the world smelled faintly of pumpkin and regret. Linda Turner sat on the porch of her modest two-story home, a mug of black coffee warming her hands. Her eyes drifted toward the driveway, empty now, but she could still see her son's SUV pulling out just 2 hours ago, the laughter of his wife echoing faintly in her ears. It had been months since Ethan last visited. Months since Linda had heard his voice not filtered through a phone speaker, not wrapped in that polite tone he used when talking to her lately. The one that made her feel like a fragile vase he didn't know where to place. He had come home for the weekend with his wife, Melissa. They brought gifts, smiles, and what felt like a layer of distance that no amount of coffee or conversation could bridge. And now, he was gone again, but he had left something behind. A small white envelope sitting on the kitchen counter, her name written in Ethan's careful handwriting. Linda took a sip of coffee, her heart heavy as she turned back into the house. The kitchen smelled like waffles, Melissa's favorite breakfast, and laughter that wasn't hers lingered in the air. She tore open the envelope slowly. Inside was a credit card, silver and elegant, with her name embossed beneath Ethan's. A sticky note was attached. In Ethan's handwriting, "Mom, this is yours, $130,000 balance. Please treat yourself for once in your life. Love, Ethan." Linda's hands trembled. $130,000. Her son had always been successful, a software engineer, living in Seattle with a house that made her own seem like a doll's model. But still, this felt wrong. Treat yourself. How could she treat herself with money she knew wasn't meant for her? She stared at the card, the numbers shimmering in the kitchen light like something sacred or cursed. Linda Turner wasn't the kind of woman who asked for help. She had raised Ethan alone after her husband, Gary, died in a construction accident 23 years ago. She had worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices by night, waitressing by day, to keep her boy fed and educated. There had been no luxury, no vacations, no Christmas gifts wrapped in gold foil. Just sacrifice, silent and steady, like the beating of her heart. And now her son, her only family, had left her a card that held more money than she had ever seen in her entire life. She sat down at the table, running her fingers over the numbers. The fridge hummed quietly in the background. She whispered, "Oh, Ethan, you shouldn't have." But her chest ached not with gratitude, with fear. Something didn't feel right. Her phone buzzed. Caller ID Melissa. Linda hesitated before answering. "Hello, sweetheart," she said softly. "Hi, Mom." Melissa's voice was warm but rushed, like someone calling from the middle of chaos. "Hey, did Ethan leave a card for you?" Linda froze. "Yes, he did. I was just about to. Oh, thank God. I told him not to forget it. That's the company card for the new investment project. He uses it for business stuff, but he said he wanted to give it to you as a surprise to cheer you up. Just don't use it yet, okay? We need to sort some things first." Linda's stomach dropped. Company card. Her eyes darted to the sticky note again. $130,000 balance. Treat yourself. Her son didn't know. Melissa had said, didn't know what. Her heart began to race. "Oh, of course, honey," she said calmly. "I'll keep it safe." "Perfect. And thank you again for the weekend. It was really nice seeing you." Melissa's voice softened. "Ethan's been worried about you. You've been alone for too long." Linda smiled faintly. "I've been alone my whole life, dear. I'm used to it." After the call ended, Linda set the phone down and looked again at the card. Her reflection shimmered in the glossy silver surface. Tired eyes, soft wrinkles, a lifetime of quiet endurance. That night, Linda opened the drawer beside her bed. Inside were old letters, Gary's letters from the hospital, Ethan's report cards, and a photograph of them from 1999. The 3 of them smiling in front of a Christmas tree that barely stood upright. She placed the card inside, under the old memories, and closed the drawer softly. "Money doesn't buy what's gone," she whispered, but sleep didn't come easily. She kept hearing Melissa's words, company card. Don't use it yet. What if Ethan got in trouble? What if this was more than a misunderstanding? Linda decided she'd drive up to Seattle next week, surprise him, talk it through. She didn't want to call and embarrass him in front of his wife. She'd do it face to face, like a mother should. The following Saturday, Linda packed a small bag, put on her beige cardigan, and got into her aging Honda Civic. The road stretched ahead, miles of asphalt lined with fading autumn trees. She turned off the radio. Silence felt safer. Halfway through the drive, she stopped at a diner, the kind of place where truckers and lost souls shared space. She ordered coffee and apple pie. The waitress smiled kindly. "Travelin' far?" Linda nodded. "Going to see my son. He doesn't know yet." Surprise visits. Always the best," the waitress said, refilling her cup. Linda smiled faintly, but her heart was heavy. She didn't want to surprise him for joy. She wanted to protect him. Even now, when she arrived at Ethan's house, her breath caught. A massive, glass-walled modern home with a view of the water. Perfect, polished, and distant, like her son had become. She rang the doorbell. A few seconds later, Melissa opened the door, shocked. "Mom, you didn't tell us you were coming." "I wanted to see Ethan," Linda said gently, clutching her purse. "Is he home?" Melissa's smile faltered slightly. "He's in a meeting upstairs. You can come in, though." The house smelled of coffee and success. Linda stepped inside, her shoes echoing on the marble floor. Family photos hung on the wall. Ethan and Melissa smiling at beaches, parties, office events. But not one picture of Linda. Her chest tightened. She waited quietly on the couch until Ethan came down the stairs, laptop in hand. His eyes widened. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "I wanted to see you," she said, and talked about the card. Ethan's face drained of color. "Mom," he said, lowering his voice. "You didn't use it, did you?" "No." "But I need to understand why you'd give me something like that." He rubbed his temples. I didn't think. I was drunk, okay? Melissa, and I had a stupid argument about money. I said I'd take care of you, and I pulled that card out just to prove a point. I wasn't supposed to." He stopped mid-sentence. His jaw tightened. Linda's eyes softened. "You were trying to make her see you're good, weren't you? A good husband. A good son." He didn't answer. "I don't need your money, Ethan," she whispered. "I just need you." That hit him harder than she intended. His shoulders slumped. "Mom, I know. I've been so busy. Work's been insane. I keep thinking I'll visit, but something always comes up." "You said that last year," Linda replied, her voice trembling. "And the year before." There was a silence that carried years of distance, a silence that only mothers know how to hold. Ethan reached for the card in her hand. "I'll take care of it." But Linda didn't move. Instead, she closed her fingers around it. "Maybe," she said softly, "you should keep this card and remember why you gave it. Not because I need it, but because you needed to feel less guilty." He froze, staring at her. She handed it back gently, her eyes wet but steady. "Money fades, Ethan. But guilt? That stays until you fix it." He looked down, speechless. And for the first time in years, she saw her boy again. Not the man in the tailored shirt, but the boy who used to cry when his dad didn't come home. Back in her car, Linda sat for a while before starting the engine. She could see Ethan standing at the window upstairs, watching her leave. She smiled sadly. Maybe he understood now, maybe not. Either way, she knew one thing for sure. The card might have had $130,000 on it, but it wasn't wealth that healed hearts. It was presence, and hers was the only gift he'd never asked for. The drive back home that night was long and quiet. The rain had begun, a soft drizzle that turned the roads into rivers of reflected light. Linda Turner gripped the steering wheel tighter than she needed to. She kept replaying Ethan's face in her mind, the way his confident smile had fallen when she said, "I just need you." Those words came from a place she'd buried for years. Now, they echoed like thunder inside her chest. By the time she reached her small Oregon town, it was almost midnight. The neighborhood was dark, a line of modest houses with faded mailboxes and tired porches. She parked in the driveway, turned off the engine, and sat there a moment. The rain whispered against the windshield. Inside, the house felt colder than usual. The ticking clock on the wall reminded her of all the nights she'd waited up for Ethan as a teenager, sitting by that same clock, counting the minutes until she'd hear the creak of the door. But tonight, there would be no footsteps, just silence. She hung her coat, placed her bag on the counter, and poured herself some tea. Then her eyes landed on the empty space on the refrigerator door, where Ethan's childhood drawings used to hang. A house, a stick-figure family, a small boy holding a woman's hand, a bright yellow sun above them. Linda smiled sadly. He used to draw us together, she whispered. Now, he just lives apart. She sipped her tea, unaware that this was the night her life was about to shift forever. The next morning, as the sun cut through the blinds, Linda went through her mail, bills, a grocery coupon, a medical insurance letter, and then a plain white envelope, N.O. return address. Only her name, Linda Turner, typed neatly in black ink. She tore it open. Inside was a check, made out to her, $130,000. Her heart nearly stopped. Attached was a small note in Ethan's handwriting. Mom, I transferred this money for you. You deserve a better life, a better house, better everything. Please don't refuse this. You've given enough. Ethan. Linda sat down slowly, her hands trembling. She had given everything, her youth, her dreams, her savings for him, and yet she didn't want this. She picked up the phone, her finger hovering over his number. Then she stopped. If she called, he'd feel guilty again. If she didn't, he might believe he'd finally made her happy. For the first time, she didn't know which choice hurt more. That afternoon, a knock broke her thoughts. It was Martha Collins, her next-door neighbor. For 20 years, a talkative widow with a kind smile and a love for gossip, she carried a basket of muffins. Linda, you're never around on weekends anymore. Thought I'd check if you're still alive, Martha teased. Linda chuckled softly. Barely. Martha's eyes fell on the check lying on the counter. Oh my lord, is that a real check? Honey, you win the lottery or something? It's for my son, Linda said quietly. He's helping me out. Martha's face softened. He's a good boy then. My Tommy barely calls unless he needs money. Linda smiled politely, but her stomach twisted. Was Ethan really being good or guilty? As Martha talked, Linda's mind drifted away. She thought about all the times she'd told Ethan, "We're fine, sweetheart," when they weren't. How many sacrifices had she hidden under that lie? When Martha left, the silence returned, and with it, the weight of that $130,000. The smell of hospital disinfectant filled her memory. Gary Turner, her husband, had been in a bed surrounded by beeping machines. His construction helmet sat on the chair beside him, cracked from the fall. He'd grabbed Linda's hand and whispered, "Promise me, Lynn, no matter how hard it gets, you make sure Ethan never feels poor." Linda nodded through tears. "I promise." Gary smiled faintly. "Then he'll grow up rich, even if we don't." That promise had shaped everything, every sleepless night, every skipped meal, every second job. And now, it felt like that same promise had come back to haunt her, in the form of a check she didn't want. 3 days later, Linda's phone rang again. This time it wasn't Ethan. "Mrs. Turner? This is Detective Raymond Clark with the Seattle Police Department. Is your son, Ethan Turner, your only child?" Her heart froze. "Yes," she whispered, gripping the counter. "What's this about?" "We'd prefer to discuss this in person, ma'am. Are you able to come to Seattle today?" The mug slipped from her hands and shattered on the floor. Her mind went blank. Is he alive?" she stammered. There was a pause on the other end. "Yes, ma'am," the detective said softly. "But you need to come." The drive to Seattle felt longer this time, like every mile carried a weight of dread. Her hands shook on the wheel. She hadn't eaten, hadn't slept. When she arrived at the police precinct, a gray-haired detective greeted her. "Mrs. Turner, thank you for coming. Please have a seat." "What happened?" she whispered, teaside. "Your son is under investigation. It's about an embezzlement case involving his company. A large amount of money, $130,000, was flagged as a personal transfer made to your account." Linda's heart nearly stopped. "That's impossible," she said. "He gave me that money as a gift." The detective nodded gently. "I understand. But it came from a business account. We believe he may not have realized how it was classified, or maybe he was trying to protect you. Either way, we need to clarify a few things." Tears blurred her vision. Ethan, her responsible, hard-working boy, a suspect. No, he wouldn't do that, she whispered. The detective placed a hand on the table. Ma'am, we're not accusing you, but we'll need your cooperation. If you haven't deposited that check yet, please don't. I would never, she said firmly. That money isn't mine. That evening, Ethan called her. His voice was raw, tense. Mom, did the police talk to you? Yes, Ethan, she said quietly. They did. I'm so sorry, Mom. I didn't mean for this to happen. I tried to fix it before they noticed, but… She cut him off gently. Why, Ethan? Why send that money? He hesitated, then broke. I just wanted to give you something back, he said through tears. You gave me everything. I thought if I gave you that money, maybe I'd stop feeling like I abandoned you. Linda's throat tightened. You think guilt is love, she whispered. You think sending me a number on paper makes up for the years you were gone? Mom, please don't. No, Ethan. Her voice cracked. I didn't raise you to buy your conscience. There was silence on the line, then a soft, broken sob. I'm sorry, he whispered. I know, she said. But you can't fix love with money. That night, Linda wrote a letter. She folded the check inside and placed it in an envelope addressed to the Seattle Police Department. Then she sat down and began to write, her pen trembling. My son is not a criminal. He is a man who forgot how to say, I love you, without using money. This check does not belong to me. Please return it where it belongs. She sealed the letter and placed it on the counter. Then she looked up at Gary's photo on the wall. I tried, Gary, she whispered. I really did. It was past 11 p.m. when someone knocked on the door. Linda hesitated, clutching her robe. Through the peephole, she saw Ethan, drenched in rain, eyes red. She opened the door, speechless. Mom. I had to come, he said, shivering. I messed up everything. Linda stepped aside and let him in. He dropped his knees right there in the hallway, sobbing. I thought giving you money would make me a better son. But all I did was make you ashamed of me. Linda knelt beside him, pulling him into her arms like she had when he was 5 years old, and scraped his knee. You're my son, she whispered, tears running down her cheeks. And nothing you do can make me ashamed of you. But you have to learn, love isn't proven by what you give. It's shown by how you show up. He cried harder, holding on to her as if he hadn't in years. For the first time in a long time, Linda didn't feel alone. She felt needed again, not as a symbol of guilt, but as a mother. When the sun rose, Ethan was still asleep on the couch. Linda quietly made breakfast, pancakes, just like she used to when he was little. When he woke, he smelled the coffee and smiled faintly. You still make them the same. Some things shouldn't change, she said with a soft smile. Then she handed him the envelope, the one with the check inside. I was going to send it back, she said. But maybe you should be the one to return it. Ethan nodded, eyes glistening. I will. They sat in silence for a while, the smell of maple syrup filling the air. Outside, the rain had finally stopped. The morning air in Oregon carried the soft chill of late autumn. The maple trees had begun to shed their last leaves, and Linda Turner stood by her kitchen window, watching the golden ones fall. She had always loved this time of year, the quiet between change and stillness. But today, the beauty of it felt heavy. Ethan had left just an hour ago. He promised he'd go straight to his office in Seattle, confess everything, and make things right. Linda wanted to believe him, but a mother's heart doesn't rest easily. Not when her child is walking into a storm. The house felt smaller since Ethan left. His coffee cup still sat on the counter, half full, the smell of maple syrup lingering in the air. Linda cleaned it slowly, methodically, the way she always did when her nerves got the best of her. She picked up the phone several times that morning, but never dialed. Instead, she sat at the kitchen table, folded her hands, and whispered the same prayer she had since he was a boy. God, please, keep him safe. Not just from the world, but from himself. Hours pass, an O call, an O message. She began to worry. Finally, around 3 p.m., her phone buzzed. Ethan. Mom. His voice was low, strained. They suspended me. Oh, sweetheart, she breathed. I'm so sorry. It's bad, he said, trying to steady his tone. They're reviewing the accounts. They said it looks like I moved company funds for personal use. Even if it was a mistake, it still violates policy. I might lose everything. Linda closed her eyes. What can I do? Nothing, he said bitterly. I already did enough damage. Just don't worry, okay? I'll figure it out. But she did worry, because she could hear the same sound in his voice that Gary once had before he died. The sound of a man losing more than a job. Losing his peace. That night, Linda sat in the quiet living room, her mind drifting back 20 years, to the night Ethan left for college. He had been so full of dreams then. I'll make it big, Mom, he had said, hugging her tightly. I'll buy you a house, a car, everything you deserve. And she had smiled, brushing his hair from his eyes. All I deserve is you coming home once in a while. He never did. Not really. Success became his addiction. Work his oxygen, and she had always stayed silent, telling herself he needed space to grow. But maybe silence was the real sin. Maybe her quiet acceptance had taught him that money was the only way to prove love. 2 days later, Linda couldn't bear the waiting anymore. She packed a small bag and drove back to Seattle. The city skyline greeted her with cold rain and gray skies. When she reached Ethan's house, Melissa opened the door. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen. Linda, she said quietly, stepping aside. He's upstairs. He hasn't eaten since yesterday. Linda climbed the stairs and stopped at the doorway to his home office. Ethan sat at his desk, staring at a computer screen filled with red alerts and documents. His suit jacket hung over the chair. His tie lay on the floor. He looked nothing like the confident man she had visited just a week ago. Ethan, she said softly. He looked up. His eyes were bloodshot. Hey, Mom. I came to see you, she said, stepping closer. You shouldn't go through this alone. He laughed bitterly. It's my mess. I deserve it. No, she said firmly. You made a mistake. That's not the same as deserving ruin. He turned away, rubbing his temples. You don't understand, Mom. They think I did it on purpose. There are rumors that I took more than just that one transfer. Did you? She asked quietly. His jaw tightened. I don't know, he said finally. I was managing so many projects, so many accounts. I let my assistant handle most of it. Maybe someone else, Ethan. Her tone sharpened, the way it used to when he was a boy. Look me in the eye. He did, and she saw the truth before he even spoke it. He wasn't guilty of theft. He was guilty of negligence, of letting success matter more than integrity, of forgetting the values she'd raised him with. That afternoon, Ethan received a call from his company's legal department. They requested a meeting. Immediately, Linda insisted on coming with him. He resisted at first, but she wouldn't take no for an answer. When they arrived at the sleek glass building, Linda could feel her son's shoulders stiffen. The receptionist gave her a polite, curious look. Inside the conference room sat 2 company lawyers and Ethan's manager, Mr. Lawson, a man in his 50s with sharp eyes and an even sharper tone. Ethan, Lawson said flatly, this is serious. The audit team found discrepancies in several accounts you managed. Over $300,000 is unaccounted for. Linda gasped softly. Ethan froze. I swear, I didn't steal anything, Ethan said, panic rising. Please check the records. Save it, Lawson interrupted. You transferred $130,000 to a personal check made out to your mother. Whether intentional or not, that's theft under company policy. We've notified authorities. Linda stepped forward. That money was never used. It's still in my possession. I wrote to your office to return it. Lawson looked mildly surprised. We received your letter, Mrs. Turner. But that doesn't erase the other issues. Ethan, unless you can provide evidence, you're facing termination and possibly charges. Ethan's hands trembled. Please, I need time. I'll find out who did this. Lawson's tone softened slightly. You have 1 week. That night, Linda cooked dinner at Ethan's house. He didn't eat much, just pushed food around his plate. Mom, he whispered, I can't sleep. I keep hearing Dad's voice. Be a good man. I tried so hard, but maybe I'm not. Linda reached across the table, touching his hand. Good men make mistakes too. What matters is what they do next. He looked up. eyes filled with tears. You still believe in me? Always, she said. But belief doesn't replace truth. You have to face this fully, honestly.
No shortcuts.
He nodded slowly. Then I'll start tomorrow.
No lawyers, no excuses.
I'll dig through every file, every transfer, until I find the truth. And I'll be here, Linda said. Until you do. For the next 3 days, Ethan barely slept. He pored over thousands of documents, searching for irregularities. Finally, on the third night, he found it. A small series of unauthorized transactions initiated by his assistant, Jacob, who had access to the same account credentials. Ethan stared at the screen in disbelief. Jacob had been with him for 5 years, loyal, dependable. Or so he thought. Linda entered the room quietly, carrying tea. Ethan? What is it? He turned the laptop toward her. It wasn't me, Mom. It was Jacob. Her eyes widened. Can you prove it? He nodded. The digital signatures, the timestamps, they all point to him. Linda's heart swelled with both relief and sorrow. Then it's time to tell them. The next morning, Ethan walked into his office with his head high for the first time in days. He presented the evidence to the audit team. Clear, irrefutable. Jacob was arrested later that afternoon. The truth finally came out. He had been quietly funneling small amounts from multiple accounts for over a year, using Ethan's credentials as a cover. Ethan was cleared of charges, but the damage was done. His company reputation, his pride, were shattered. They offered him 2 choices: resign quietly with benefits or stay under supervision, while they rebuild trust. Ethan signed the resignation papers without hesitation. When he returned home, Linda was waiting on the porch, 2 cups of coffee ready. It's over, he said quietly. I resigned. Linda nodded. Good. You chose peace over pride. He sat beside her, his shoulders relaxing for the first time in weeks. Mom, I thought losing my job would destroy me, he said. But maybe it's what I needed. Sometimes, she said softly, life has to break you to remind you what truly matters. They sat together in silence, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and gold. Over the next few weeks, Ethan spent more time in Oregon than he had in years. He helped fix the old fence, mowed the lawn, even cooked dinner once in a while. Linda began to see glimpses of the boy he used to be, the one who laughed easily, who helped without being asked, who said thank you and I love you without hesitation. Melissa visited occasionally too, and though her marriage with Ethan had been strained, something in both of them began to heal. The house that once felt empty now echoed with life again, and Linda knew this was the real gift she had always wanted. Not $130,000, just time. Winter came quietly to Oregon. The first frost covered the lawns like a soft white blanket, and the mornings smelled faintly of pine and wood smoke. Linda Turner woke early as always, wrapped her cardigan tighter around her shoulders, and stood by the kitchen window watching the sky shift from silver to gold. It had been 3 months since Ethan left his job. He was staying with her now, splitting time between her home in Oregon and his apartment in Seattle, helping with small repairs, cooking on weekends, and calling her every night when he wasn't around. For the first time in years, Linda felt she had her son back. But life, as always, had its own plans. It started with a cough, soft, persistent, and harmless at first. Linda brushed it off as winter air. But when it didn't go away, Ethan insisted she see a doctor. They sat in the small-town clinic, the hum of fluorescent lights filling the silence. Linda smiled faintly as Ethan fidgeted beside her, tapping his knee the way he used to before exams in high school. Mom, I told you we should have done this weeks ago, he muttered. I didn't want to worry you, she said softly. He looked at her, the wrinkles around her eyes deeper now, her skin pale but calm. You worry me when you don't say anything. The doctor came in, a gentle woman with kind eyes and a voice that carried both warmth and caution. After the usual greetings, she flipped through Linda's file, her expression tightening just slightly. Mrs. Turner, she said slowly, we've found something in your lung scans. It looks like an early-stage mass, possibly benign, but we need to do a biopsy to be sure. The room went quiet. Ethan's hand froze in midair. Linda blinked. A mass. The doctor nodded. It could be nothing, but we can't ignore it. You've been coughing for a while, haven't you? Linda smiled faintly, trying to stay composed. A few weeks, yes. Ethan's voice cracked. What do we need to do? The doctor explained the tests, the treatment options, but Linda barely heard any of it. Her mind drifted somewhere else, to the sound of Gary's voice, 20 years ago. Promise me, Lynn, you'll always take care of yourself. She hadn't kept that promise. Not really. She had spent a lifetime taking care of everyone else. That night, dinner was quiet. Ethan picked at his food, unable to hide his fear. Linda tried to lighten the mood. Remember when you used to refuse broccoli? She said with a smile. I had to tell you it was baby trees. He chuckled softly. Yeah, and I believed you. I was a dumb kid. You were a sweet kid, she said gently. He looked at her, his eyes glistening. You're not scared. I'm tired, not scared, she said. There's a difference. Ethan clenched his jaw. You're not going through this alone, Mom. I'll take care of you. She smiled sadly. You've said that before. I mean it this time. I know, she whispered, but you also have a life to rebuild. I don't care about that right now, he said. You're all that matters. Linda reached over and touched his hand. That's what I used to say about you. And look where it got us. He frowned. What do you mean? I spent so many years making sure you never felt poor, never felt alone. I forgot that I needed living too. I don't want you to make the same mistake. He didn't respond. He just looked down at his plate, his heart aching with the weight of her words. The following week, Linda went in for the biopsy. Ethan sat in the waiting room, his leg bouncing anxiously. He kept glancing at the clock, counting each minute like it might change something. When the doctor finally came out, Ethan stood before she could speak. It went well, she said gently. We'll have results in a few days. She's resting now. Ethan exhaled, finally allowing himself to breathe. He went in to see her, pale but smiling, as if she were the one comforting him. See, she said softly. Still here. Don't joke, he said, his voice breaking. Please. She reached for his hand. I'm not joking. I'm reminding you, life isn't something we can buy, Ethan. It's something we use while we have it. While Ethan slept on the couch that night, Linda sat by the fireplace with a notebook. She began writing a letter. Not because she was giving up, but because she wanted to leave something real behind. My dear Ethan, if you're reading this, it means I didn't have the time to say all of this out loud. You've grown into a man I'm proud of, not because of what you've earned, but because of what you've learned. You learned that money can't heal a heart, that mistakes don't define you, and that forgiveness is the most expensive gift we can give, and the only one worth giving. If life takes me, promise me one thing. Don't stop living yours. Don't drown in guilt. Don't hide behind work. Love your wife. Laugh often. Visit the house that made you who you are. And remember, I never wanted your money. I just wanted your mornings, your voice, your hugs. That was always enough. Love, Mom. She folded the letter and placed it in the old drawer with Gary's photo, beside the now expired silver card that had started at all point 3 days later. The doctor called. Ethan answered the phone, his hand trembling. Yes, this is Ethan Turner. I'm calling about my mother's results. A pause. Then, I see. Thank you. He hung up slowly, his eyes wet. Linda looked at him calmly. Stage what? He swallowed. Stage 2. But treatable. She nodded. Then we fight. He blinked in disbelief. You're not even scared? Oh, I am, she said with a soft laugh. But fear doesn't feed you. Hope does. Ethan sat down beside her, his eyes full of tears. Mom, I'll pay for everything. The best hospital, the best doctors. Linda shook her head.
No.
We'll use what we need, nothing more. I won't let you turn this into another debt. It's not a debt, he said desperately. It's love. Then show it, she said gently. Be here. Not just with your wallet, with your heart. Over the next few months, Linda began chemotherapy. The days blurred into one another, some good, some unbearable. Ethan was by her side through it all, holding her hair when she was sick, reading her old books aloud, driving her to every appointment. At first, he tried to distract her with jokes, with work stories, but eventually, he learned silence was the best companion. They would sit together for hours. No words needed. Sometimes she'd fall asleep holding his hand. Sometimes he'd cry quietly. While she slept, knowing that time was slipping through his fingers again. One evening, while Ethan was cooking soup, the doorbell rang. It was Melissa. She looked different, calmer, gentler, holding a bag of groceries. "I brought food," she said softly. "May I come in?" Ethan nodded awkwardly. She entered, setting the bag down, her eyes landing on Linda, who was wrapped in a blanket by the fireplace. "Hi, Mom," she said, her voice trembling. Linda smiled. "It's good to see you, dear." They talked for a while, the tension slowly melting. At one point, Linda looked between them and said, "You two still love each other. I can see it." Melissa blushed. Ethan looked away. "Love doesn't just disappear," Linda said. "It just waits for forgiveness." That night, after Melissa went to bed in the guest room, Ethan and Linda sat outside under the stars. The winter sky was sharp and clear, the moon glowing pale over the snow. "Mom," he said quietly, "I don't know what I'd do without you." "You'll live," she said. "You'll cry. You'll curse the world for a while. Then one morning, you'll wake up and the sun will rise, and you'll realize love doesn't leave when people do." He turned to her, tears glistening. "You make it sound so easy." "It's not," she said softly, "but it's worth it." They sat in silence, watching the stars, two souls at peace, if only for a moment. Spring came with the sound of melting snow. The air in Oregon smelled like wet earth and pine needles, and the river near Linda's home began to run full again. But inside the Turner house, time felt slower, softer, like a breath that refused to leave the lungs. Linda was weaker now. Her treatment had thinned her hair, and her once bright eyes now carried a shadow that only Ethan could recognize. Yet, she never complained. Every morning, she'd still make tea, humming softly, sitting by the window as the sunlight touched her wrinkled hands. And every morning, Ethan would wake up early. Not because he had to, but because he feared one morning she might not be there. It was early April when Ethan received a call from Bradley and Company, one of the largest investment firms in the country. They wanted him to a position in New York, an annual salary of $220,000 plus bonuses, enough to rebuild the life he had lost. He stared at the offer on his screen, heart pounding. It was everything he had worked for, everything he once believed would make him proud. But this time, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like betrayal. That night, he told his mother, "They want me back," he said quietly. Linda looked up from her tea. "That's good, isn't it?" "I don't know," he said. "It's New York. It's far." She smiled faintly. "Far isn't forever." He frowned. "Mom, you're still in treatment. And you're still alive," she said softly. "You can't stop living just because I'm sick." Ethan looked down, his chest tightening. "I can't leave you." "Then don't," she said. "But don't pretend it's for me. If you stay, make sure it's for you, because you choose to, not because you feel guilty." He had no words, only silence, the heavy, suffocating kind. That night, Ethan sat in the living room, staring at the fireplace. He called Melissa. It had been weeks since they last talked. "Hey," he said softly. "Hey," she replied. Her voice was calm, but tired. "How's your mom?" "She's fighting," he said. "Stronger than me, actually." Melissa chuckled faintly. "That sounds like her." Ethan hesitated, then said, "They offered me a job in New York." A pause. Then, "Wow. That's huge, Ethan." "Yeah. But I don't know if I can take it." "Because of your mom?" she asked. "Because I'm scared," he admitted. Scared of leaving her. Scared of living without her. Scared of doing anything that feels selfish. Melissa's voice softened. "Ethan, sometimes love means going where you're needed, even if it hurts. Your mom doesn't want you trapped by fear." "She said that too," he whispered. "Then listen to her," Melissa said gently. "And listen to yourself." Ethan closed his eyes, tears forming. "I wish I hadn't hurt you." "You didn't just hurt me," she said quietly. "You hurt yourself too. But people who love deeply, they always do." Before hanging up, she added one more thing. Ethan, if you take the job, don't take it to escape guilt. Take it to build something your mom would be proud of. He sat there long after the call ended, the firelight flickering over his face, his heart torn between love and responsibility. By mid-May, Linda had more good days than bad ones. She started cooking again, slowly, carefully, and sometimes, when the pain wasn't too much, she'd garden. Her little patch of roses was blooming again, pink and golden. Ethan helped her water them one morning. "Smells like life, doesn't it?" she said. He smiled. "You're the only person who can make cancer sound poetic." She laughed softly. "Life doesn't stop being beautiful just because it hurts." He looked at her, her fragile hands holding the watering can, her scarf tied neatly over her head, and realized she wasn't fighting to live longer. She was fighting to live better. It happened one afternoon. Ethan had gone to the store, and when he came back, the front door was slightly open. "Mom," he called out, an "oh" answer. He found her near the kitchen table, collapsed on the floor. "Mom." He rushed to her, heart pounding, lifting her head gently. Her eyes fluttered open weakly. "I'm fine," she whispered. "Just slipped." He called 911 anyway. The hospital. They discovered her hemoglobin had dropped sharply, a side effect of the treatment. She needed a transfusion and rest. For the first time, Ethan saw something in her eyes he hadn't seen before: fear. "Don't leave me, Mom," he whispered, holding her hand. She looked at him with tears in her eyes. "I'm trying not to." While cleaning her room a few days later, Ethan found an envelope under her pillow. It had his name on it. Inside was a small note, written in her careful, slanted handwriting. "Ethan, if you find this, it means I've been thinking about what comes next. Don't be angry. This isn't a goodbye letter. It's a reminder. If life ever takes me before you're ready, promise me you'll keep building. Don't spend your days protecting my memory. Live it. Buy the house you always dreamed of. Love, Melissa," if your heart still knows her name. "And if you ever use that silver card again, don't use it to treat me. Use it to treat yourself. Love, Mom." Ethan clutched the letter to his chest, tears streaming down his face. He realized she knew everything, every emotion he had buried, every fear he hadn't spoken. She had seen right through him, the way only a mother could point. 1 week later, Linda was stable again. Ethan sat beside her, holding her hand as sunlight spilled across the room. "Mom," he said softly, "I'm taking the job." Her lips curved into a smile. "Good. But I'm keeping the house," he added. "I'll come back every weekend." She nodded. "Then I'll keep the garden alive for you." He smiled through tears. "Promise." "Promise," she whispered. He leaned down, pressing his forehead to hers. For a long moment, they didn't speak. They just breathed together in the quiet rhythm of forgiveness and love. When the day came for Ethan to fly to New York, Linda stood on the porch, wrapped in her shawl, her eyes shining. "You'll call me every day?" she asked. "Every single day," he said. She smiled. "And you'll eat something green once in a while?" He laughed. "No promises." They hugged tightly, neither wanting to let go. As he walked to the car, she called out, "Ethan?" He turned. "Yeah." She lifted her hand, waving. "You were always enough." He smiled, blinking back tears. "So were you, Mom." That night, after Ethan's flight, Linda sat by the window, looking out at the sunset. The sky burned orange and gold, the same color as the roses in her garden. She whispered softly to herself, "Thank you, God, for letting me see my son become whole again." The wind rustled through the trees, and for the first time in years, Linda felt completely at peace.